morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Executive Policy Committee for Friday, December the 12th, 2025. Meeting dedicated to hearing from members of the community related to the City of Winnipeg's proposed budget. I want to begin today by acknowledging that we are gathered in Treaty 1 territory, the home and the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Innu and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis, and our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 in Treaty 3 territory. And so this morning, there's no motions of minutes related to any previous meeting. And what we'll do then is we'll turn it right over to our clerk to introduce our first delegation.
Okay. Our first delegation is Melanie Cardinal, to be heard in opposition to the budget. And Melanie was supposed to be joining us in person, but I don't see her, so we'll move on to the second delegation. Felicia Wiltshire from the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association, to be heard in support of the preliminary budget.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm good to go, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak today. I'm here on behalf of Manitoba Heavy Construction Association to comment on the 2026 preliminary budget and to highlight several areas that we believe are important for the future of Winnipeg's infrastructure, along with the city's economic competitiveness. Let me begin with two major projects that are priorities for the city, but also key pieces of our national trade corridors, Chief Peguis Trail Extension and the Route 90 expansion. We're pleased to see funding allocated for both those projects in this budget. While we would certainly like to see these projects advance much more quickly, these commitments are a step in the right direction. It's important to emphasize that these corridors are more than local road improvements. They are key components of our national trade corridor. Ensuring goods can move efficiently in and out of Winnipeg is essential to our city's economic growth and our ability to compete on a national and global marketplace. Turning to the broader streets budget, we're encouraged to see funding in the 6-year capital program for the major rehabilitation work, including the Louise Bridge, Lagimodia Overpass, and other road safety improvements. And while we are encouraged with the announcement of the $1.1 billion road renewal plan, which is included in the 6-year capital budget, this is a significant commitment. However, at this stage, we simply need more detail about where this funding will be dedicated before we can offer further feedback. We understand that not all of this funding goes directly into construction. Some of this will support design work, land acquisition, and other essential components for delivering these major projects. But our members are eager to know how much of this investment will ultimately reach the construction industry and translate into on-the-ground work. This clarity matters because construction planning requires long lead times. The more certainty our members have about the scale of upcoming work, the timing, and the nature of the projects, the better they can plan their staffing, equipment, and resources. Predictability in public infrastructure investments directly improves the industry's ability to deliver projects efficiently and cost-effectively. And with material costs continuing to rise year over year, predictability becomes even more important. As costs increase, the city gets less work completed for the same amount of funding, which reinforces the need for clear, consistent long-term plan. We also appreciate, though, that the city continues to dedicate the 1% property tax increase to local and regional streets. Maintaining that component does send an important signal about that importance of predictable funding. However, we do have concerns with that. Over the years, the Streets Fund has been increasingly diluted. Dollars that were originally intended for roadway renewal are now being allocated to bridges, sidewalks, and even tree replacement. And while these are all important investments, shifting them into those other funds changes the intent of the original policy. With the extremely high cost of bridge projects in particular, this shift will lead to even fewer road projects being completed. But as I close, I want to acknowledge one major positive step in this budget, the decision to fully fund the remaining upgrades of the North End sewage treatment plant. This is the largest infrastructure project in Winnipeg's history and is essential for both environmental protection and future population growth. We applaud Council for taking the necessary action to move this project forward. This is the kind of long-term, forward-looking investment that will allow Winnipeg to grow, prosper, and remain competitive for decades to come. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. We appreciate the work that goes into this budget and look forward to our continued dialogue. Our members stand ready to work with the city to deliver high-quality infrastructure that supports a growing and thriving Winnipeg. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiltshire. Any questions at all? Okay, thank you for your clear presentation. Wish you and family and everyone at Manitoba Heavy happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Same to all of you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next delegation is Nick Casper, President of the United Firefighters of Winnipeg, to be heard in support of the SPC on Community Services recommendation and in opposition to the preliminary budget.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to start by saying thank you. Whether we agree or not, the work you do is challenging, often thankless and deserving of recognition. I'd also like to thank Councillor Gilroy for her motion to refer to 2027. It was evident during EPC that both she and Councillor Durand Wood listened to the public service and were interested in tackling the real cause of this crisis. What was equally evident, however, was a disappointing lack of support from others that ultimately prevented a motion that would have delivered real and meaningful change today. And I'm asking you to correct that shortfall. Amend this budget to give the fire chief the 40 firefighters he requested at the budget working group, or at the very least, meet the department halfway by accelerating this year. These positions won't be hired until late in the fiscal year, with finance reporting accelerating would only cost between $300,000 to $400,000. And the earlier we start, the earlier we begin to see meaningful reductions. Leaving us with only 10 positions, less than 15% of annual overtime, and targeting 2029 leaves us 40 short of a decade-old strategic plan, guaranteeing years of preventable multi-million-dollar overages for years to come. You've heard the facts, you've seen the data. Audits, finance, consultants, and chiefs have told you the same thing. We're critically understaffed, overtime is the direct result, and it's compounding WCB costs. Our department has exhausted every innovative outside-the-box solution, and we're now recycling failed ideas by bringing back the resource pool. The only solution never attempted is following the unanimous recommendation of every expert. Anything else guarantees the same outcome. My members entrusted me to bring you this message. I've done so clearly and repeatedly, and now they've spoken to you directly, with 99.5% of firefighters voting non-confidence in this budget. That's not symbolic. That's a workforce in crisis with no 911 to call. They're telling you they no longer believe council supports or understands the conditions they're being asked to work under. And that should concern every person at this table, because trust is the foundation of public safety. Winnipeg's firefighters have earned the trust of the community the hard way, inside people's homes, in their workplaces, and on the streets day and night in their moments of greatest need. Winnipeggers know that we will always answer their call, no matter the cost. Today, we're asking for nothing more than the ability to serve them with the same standard of care we would expect for our own families. And with the resources provided in this budget, we are telling you we cannot meet that standard. Imagine the weight of that reality on those who show up every day prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice, losing the race against time to save lives and property. The only voices we haven't heard are the people we serve, the taxpayers whose dollars you are allocating. UFFW commissioned probe research to get their input, and the results are unequivocal. 98% of Winnipeggers trust frontline firefighters on this issue. 94% oppose relying on overtime instead of hiring staff. 91% agree that excessive overtime negatively impacts firefighters' mental health. And 82% want far more firefighters hired this year than the budget provides, and say council's decision on the issue will affect their vote in 2026. Most importantly, less than 10% consider current staffing levels to be acceptable. At SPC last week, your chief confirmed that he and UFFW are saying the same thing. He stated plainly that without more positions, he will be back next year requesting millions more in avoidable over-expenditures. His words were clear, I quote, "Accelerating the hiring would have a significant impact on managing overtime costs, and accelerated onboarding would allow us to put more people in the pool and fill more absences without relying on existing staff who are already under extreme stress." Your evidence leaves no room for debate, personal beliefs, or opinions. For years, every one of your measures has identified the same cause: chronic understaffing, an 80-position shortfall, I quote, "threatening the department's continued ability to meet its mandate." Since then, call volumes are up hundreds of %, already exceeding 2040 projections. Overtime costs have surpassed $56 million since 2018, WCB costs, injury severity are up hundreds of percent, and we have firefighters working more than 70 extra shifts a year. None of this is sustainable, none of it should be considered acceptable, and none of it will change until you address the root cause. The solution is simple. Reallocate tomorrow's overtime spending into staffing today. These are not new dollars being spent. They're existing dollars being spent far more efficiently. You can recommend a budget that continues a cycle of crisis, or you can take steps to finally address it. Please, we are all asking you to stand with the people who pay the ultimate price serving this city, and we're letting you know that your response will affect their lives in ways that no budget line can measure. So I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your presentation. Questions at all? Okay. Thank you very much for your time today, and to you and your family and colleagues, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Likewise, happy holidays.
Our next delegation is Laura Duncan from the UFFW Mental Health Committee to be heard in opposition to the preliminary budget.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my concerns surrounding the proposed 2026 budget and the impact this will have on firefighters if adjustments aren't made to support our staff. My name is Laura Duncan, and I had the opportunity to speak at the SBC meeting last week. I shared concerns that I have with our staffing issues and what I have seen as a leader in an operational role in mental health advocate. I have championed mental health for years as a member of our peer support team and previous coordinator. 2 years as a training officer developing and teaching mental health programs, and in my current role as a captain at 16 Station. I have received the Champion of Mental Health Award from the Canadian Institute for Public Safety Research and Treatment, the Award for Excellence in Mental Health Intervention in 2024 from WFPS. I've served on the committee who structured the framework for Bill 29, the Workplace Safety and Health Act, which addressed psychological safety in the workplace. And I'm currently part of a team working on developing guidelines for firefighter behavioral health programs with the Fire Service Psychology Association. I'm concerned that perhaps the hesitation in allocating funds for staffing is fueled by a misunderstanding of the timeline and events that have brought us to this point. Overtime for our members started to increase around 2009, where we saw an over-expenditure year after year. The glaring issues began in 2020 when COVID requirements for staff displaying any symptoms related to the illness required isolation. The impact of COVID saw the overtime numbers spike, and along with the overtime, the call volumes and types of calls began to worsen. Compassion fatigue, daily and sometimes hourly changes to protocols impacted members on the front lines. Burnout started to set in. In the fall of 2021, we welcomed our behavioral health unit. We created education to break down stigma, and we assisted our colleagues on their individual journeys toward recovering from years of workplace trauma. People who had been carrying years of workplace injuries that were impacting their daily lives, unknown to them, experiencing symptoms that include things like insomnia, anxiety, substance misuse, and the breakdown of the family unit, were finally figuring things out. WCB numbers saw an increase for psychological claims. This is a predictable outcome for an organization who, for decades, failed to provide appropriate resources for their staff. After the initial flood, numbers were leveling off. Tragedy struck, and we lost a member to suicide, a person who captured the hearts of every person he worked with. Reality kicked in for many of our staff. If this could happen to Preston, this could happen to me. More staff were identifying the cumulative impacts of the job. People were acting on needs that had been ignored for years. WCB numbers will continue to increase at WFPS. For PTSD claims, WCB can presume that it was caused by the worker's employment unless proven otherwise. The presumption is intended to reduce stigma around mental illness. WCB also recognizes that excessive workload over prolonged periods of time can, in certain circumstances, constitute a traumatic event and give rise to a compensable claim. A normal work week that has a firefighter working 48 hours has now shifted to 58, 68, 62, or 76-hour work week. 17,600 hours for psychological injuries at WFPS in 2024 are part of what's driving the decisions being made for the 2026 budget. The numbers are concerning, and I think it's good that these numbers have attracted everyone's attention. Another number that should have everyone's attention is $10 million this last year and a total of $58 million over the last several years in overtime. That overtime number will be the same or higher this coming year, along with WCB numbers that will continue to spike due to the unexpected change in our trusted resource Alpha Consulting and Clinical Services. At SBC last week, our chiefs answered the question about the impact of doubling the 10 resource pool staff to 20. Chief Wilkinson acknowledged that the addition of the 10 extra members would have a significant impact on the overtime issues we are facing. He also said they would find a way to manage the training and onboarding requirements to support the initiative. John Hall estimated an investment of roughly $300,000 to support that. Conversations about a motion to support the idea of adding another 10 resource pool positions between Councillor Santos, Allard, Gilroy, and Durand-Wood resulted in a split vote, 2 in favor and 2 on the fence. The decision was to table a conversation about additional funds needed to next year's budget deliberations. Comments were made that there was no money allocated to support this, and we had a balanced budget. Perhaps there is money that could be utilized to support the stoppage of overtime and the preservation of the health and well-being of our staff.
Someone want to move extension to another couple minutes, Laura?
2 would be at the most.
Councillor Duncan moves extension of 2 minutes. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Carry on.
Thank you. Perhaps there is money that could be utilized to support the stoppage of overtime and the preservation of the health and well-being of our staff. The BHU budget was $450,000, and the winner of the contract came in at $294,000. That is $156,000 of available money. The WFPS has been approved to onboard 9 or 11, I'm unsure exactly of the amount, for wellness staff. These are full-time employees, and I'm unsure of the wellness aspect of their mandate, other than that they are a branch of the HR department working on returning people to work from WCB. The new name suggests otherwise, and some may say it is lipstick on a pig, but I can assure you, unless these individuals have psychology degrees, and I'm certain they don't, what they presume to accomplish in their mandate to get people back to work will be an upstream swim. The overtime will continue, and firefighters with 1/6 of the WCB numbers will become 2/3 of the total. Maybe this year's money that's allocated to support those 9 or 11 FTEs can be utilized to support lessening the overtime that is perpetuating the WCB claims and creating vacancies. The new legislation was passed this year, Bill 29, the Workplace Safety and Health Amendment Act, which significantly updates provincial workplace safety laws, focusing heavily on psychological safety. This requires employers to promote workers' well-being and prevent mental harm. What will the penalty be for infractions for the City of Winnipeg accepting reckless amounts of overtime from staff, numbers that have escalated year after year, injuring our frontline workers? For every overtime shift a person works increases their exposure to workplace violence and psychological injuries. What would happen here if your 50-hour work week became a 64-hour work week? Year after year, and weekends, days of rest and holidays were stolen from you due to staffing issues. How long could you sustain that? What is the timeline for when that schedule starts to impact your family, your sleep, your self-care? That's a question that needs to be asked of every leader here today. I'm almost done.
You just get carry on.
Thank you.
Laura.
Every leader here today who impacts the decision of our budget. This is the reality I work in, and I'm asking for your consideration to revisit the budget to shift and include the addition of another 10 resource pool members for a total of 20 this year to the WFPS budget.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for your presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions today? Thank you. Your presentation will be part of the record, right?
No, we
Nope.
don't have
No?
anything
Okay.
written from Laura, I don't.
Well, this is being
Yes.
recorded, obviously, like, on our system, so, our DBIS system, so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
and to you and your family and friends and colleagues, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays as well.
Yeah.
Sorry I missed you at the hall
Yeah.
but thank you for your letter, appreciate
Yeah,
it. So good.
I'm glad you had a chance to read
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take
happy
care.
holidays.
Okay, our next delegation is Steve Snyder to be heard in support of the preliminary budget, and Steve is joining us via Zoom. Steve, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and turn on your video, you have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, how are we doing today?
Good morning, welcome, Steve, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be seen. So I'm here today to talk to the budget. I actually really like the budget. I think that the operational side of things is looking really good. I have a little bit of issues with some of the capital ideas, but My biggest concern with the budget is, I brought it up at Finance and Economic Development, is recommendation D and E on completely changing the financial stabilization reserve. Using it to balance the budget for the year is not good practice, and I'm a little bit worried about the financial management if this is the change that the city is going with. I just wanted to put that on the record that I mean, I'm the only person that really talks about this sort of stuff. So, but yeah, this isn't best practice from an accountant side of things, from a finance side of things, and I'm worried about those two recommendations: the policy change to the financial stabilization reserve to be just used as basically a fund to balance the budget.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions at all? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you very much. Trying to be brief. You know, I know you guys are busy this time of year, so.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's great. And to you, to your family, to friends, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Our next three delegations are all registered in opposition to the preliminary budget. So first up, we'll hear from Scott Atchison, Captain Paramedic, Peer Support Coordinator with the Fire Paramedic Service.
Good morning, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Hello and good morning, Mr. Mayor and councillors. My name is Scott Atchison. I'm a Captain Paramedic, an Acting District Chief, and the Peer Support Coordinator for the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service. I'm a recipient of the WFPS Mental Health Intervention Award, and I oversee 22 members of the Fire Department Peer Support Group, which is part of a 61-person multidisciplinary team working alongside of our behavioral health nurse and a team of clinicians. Our role is simple but critical: to help our members access psychological care when they need it, before strain becomes injury and before injury becomes crisis. This work is not theoretical to me, it is deeply personal. I stand here today because I survived a fatal fire that took the lives of members of our crew. I was directly involved in the rescue and resuscitation efforts that followed. In the aftermath, it became clear that our department had a significant gap, not in just caring for the physically injured, but in supporting the psychological recovery of the survivors. That need was recognized. It was addressed, and from that moment forward, this work became my purpose. So today, I want to be very clear about why I'm here. We are not presenting conflicting stories. We are presenting one consistent diagnosis: add staff, reduce overtime, stabilize the workforce, improve mental health, control long-term costs, and protect public safety. Every other option, maintaining the status quo, commissioning additional audits, pursuing isolated efficiencies, or shifting resources, fails to address the root cause of what we are experiencing. That root cause is straightforward. We are asking too few people to carry too much load for too long under increasingly extreme conditions. If the fire department, entertain this metaphor, please, but if the fire department were a vehicle, a bus, our members are the engine that drives it. It is the machine that we work in, maintain, and rely on every day, through calm conditions, through crisis, and through some of the darkest moments the city has faced. Along this road, we have seen extraordinary acts of courage and service. We have also endured the hardest miles: fatal fires, overdoses, homicides, COVID, catastrophic injuries, and the loss of our own colleagues, both on the fire ground and as a result of PTSD. And now we are driving into another storm. We have an aging population, the fentanyl and methamphetamine epidemics, rising homelessness, historic increases in both structure fires and vacant building fires are all converging at once. The demand has never been higher, and it continues to grow. When a vehicle operates under sustained extreme conditions, warning indicators begin to appear, and today our dashboard is clearly lighting up. Increased requests to leave the frontline operations for lower risk roles. That's a warning light. Early retirements, another. Experienced members leaving the profession entirely, another. But the most serious indicator is the one that signals signals internal damage, the oil light. Our peer support team and behavioral health unit function like that oil light. Members come to us and we gain their trust through confidentiality and can converse with them often at their breaking point. What we are seeing is consistent and concerning. The oil, which is the capacity of our members, is running low. Morale is thinning. Mental health injuries are increasing and the engine is under strain. And this bus, the one responsible for safely carrying millions of citizens through emergency and uncertainty, is not out of danger yet. The only thing that keeps this engine running is its people, not overtime, not hope, and not resilience alone, but people. New firefighters, new firefighter paramedics, new strength in the system. In this system, the oil is our members' physical, psychological, and cognitive capacity to safely absorb repeated exposure to trauma, fatigue, and operational risk. It reduces friction between demand and performance, and when that capacity is depleted, injuries increase, errors become more likely, and the risk compounds. We need to add oil to this bus now before this engine seizes, before response reliability is compromised.
Do you need another
Sorry.
minute? Okay, Councillor Santos moves the extension of 2 minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carry on.
Thank you very much, appreciated. We need to add oil to this bus now before the engine seizes, before response reliability is compromised, and before we lose more members to burnout, injury, or worse. Acting now is not an escalation of risk. It is prudent risk management. We need to add more people, and we need to add them now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. Thank you again to you and your family and friends. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Kenneth Clausen, joining us in person. And following Kenneth, the last registered speaker we have is Christopher Calacio.
The first delegate didn't come, never did show up.
I have a PowerPoint presentation that's supposed to be loaded on the screen.
Did you bring it on a USB?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Can you help me,
perfect.
please?
Jade will help you.
I have some vision problems, so I need a bit of help here. Here's a USB.
Thank you.
Start?
Good morning, welcome, and thank you. You can go ahead, Mr. Clausen.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this morning. I want to provide you with my comments, concerns, and recommendations for the Route 9 Improvement Project, and specifically to your 2026 preliminary budget, the $5.2 million for land acquisition for this project, and also the $13 million in planning for 2027 and 2028. This presentation is a reality check. It's a reality check of whether this project is currently envisioned still makes sense. There's compelling evidence that this project is unaffordable, will not fix congestion, will not meaningfully reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and will not expand or diversify trade. It will also perpetuate one of Winnipeg's most serious problems, building more infrastructure than the city can afford to maintain. Perhaps most concerning of all is that more affordable and effective alternatives exist, but they have not been seriously explored. I'm not asking you to take my word for any of this. What I am asking you to do is to refute the concerns on this slide and this slide. And rebut them, refute them, and not with opinion, but with evidence. Or alternatively, acknowledge that it is time to pause, reset, and do this properly. First thing I want to address is the cost. When this project first was proposed, it was $129 million. I've tried to document, and you can see the sources. It's gone up and up and up again. It is now about 500% higher since it was originally proposed. Can that be explained by inflation or construction inflation? No. That's 10 times the increase in consumer price index, 6 times the construction cost escalation for a 15-city composite. So that's just staggering. It's one of the largest cost increases of any infrastructure project in the city's history. However, that's only a Class 3 estimate. What I've tried to do is to say, well, if the 614 capital, it's going to be debt funded, whether it's through the city, province, or feds. Whoever funds this thing is all going to be debt. So we're really talking about $757 million. And if you look at a Class 3 estimate, given the history of this project, it could be another 30% higher. It could be approaching $1 billion, from 129 to $1 billion. However, it is not fair. It is not fair to attribute the entire cost of the project to the widening. You know, you have to reconstruct Kenniston, I agree with that. You have to rehabilitate St. James Bridge, and you need to separate the combined sewers. So what I've done is I've tried to estimate how much of this project cost is attributable solely to the widening. And my estimate is about $250 million to $333 million. Route 9 improvements will not solve congestion or address the underlying causes. These charts aren't mine. They're yours from your administration. The project's finished. You've cut the ribbon on opening day. Look at the weekday and the weekend. The yellow line is 2 lanes, existing, just rebuilding is 2 lanes. The blue line is what's proposed, 3 lanes. If you look on the weekend, okay, and look at red, red is, it takes longer. Green, you save time. On weekends, from the very opening day, it will take longer to travel. And if we look at the weekdays, 20 to 24 hours, it will take longer or there's no time savings. The time savings are concentrated almost entirely for 1 hour in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. And those savings are about a few minutes. And the same pattern repeats in 2050. If we look closer, there's really 2 elements of the time savings. There's what are called mitigated construction delays. That's the largest savings of this entire project. So during 2 years of construction, by adding more lanes, and it dwarfs everything else in terms of the benefits. I'll return to that issue in a minute. So what is your administration, how do they describe this? They describe these ongoing time savings as marginal, minor time savings benefits. $250 million to $333 million for marginal or minor time saving benefits. Boy, you know, we have an election next year. I wouldn't want to campaign on that. Widening Route 9 is a very poor investment of public resources. I agree with the mayor that sometimes you do have to make an investment to get a return on that investment. The net return on this investment, so we're spending $250 to $333 million over and above the cost of reconstruction. The net benefit is only $10 million over 50 years. That's $200,000 per year. Let's benchmark that. I could put that money into safe government bonds, you know, 2% real return or equities of 5%. I would get hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in return over that same 50-year period, not 10 million. What a terrible investment of public resources. And let's look at, dive a little bit deeper in terms of the cash flow. All the red are expenditures, and everything above the line, the green bars and the dark green bars, are savings.
Moves to, 1 second, Mr. Clausen, move extension of time by Councillor Duncan. Do you need 2 minutes?
Maybe 3.
Okay, 3 minutes, but then I'll ask you to please wrap it up by then. Thank
Sure.
you so very much. Yep.
Sure.
Extension of 3 minutes, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Carry on, Mr. Clausen.
So here you can see there's a lot of red ink offset in the 2 years of construction. The future savings, this project would never exist if it wasn't for the mitigated construction savings. But the red ink and the green ink are almost offset each other. But why is this happening? This is happening because adding more lanes has been proven in city after city across North America and around the world that is the most expensive, least effective way to address congestion. There's a variety of other things you can do to reduce congestion. I've heard other proponents talk about this project saying it's going to induce new development and will pay for itself by triggering that new development or intensification. This is a direct quote from your own cost-benefit analysis. There are currently no known land development or intensification projects that are entirely contingent or adding a third lane to Route 90. There's no additional municipal revenue associated with this project. Even Canada Land's own corporate consultant panned this project. And that was a FIPA from Winnipeg Free Press. The whole argument on a trade corridor is a red herring. You've tried and failed twice to get funding. The last application made to the federal government for funding was centered around it's going to boost trade to the United States. Can you imagine asking the feds to fund expansion of a trade corridor to increase trade with the U.S.? That's just toxic. It's a politically toxic argument to the feds. And the rationale that Route 9 is essential to success of Centerport, that's no longer credible. The CN Intermodal Terminal has been moved. It's not on Route 90 anymore. It's CN Intermodal, it's moved to the Symington Yards. And the Canada Port Center Way, an upgraded perimeter highway, they're diverting a large amount of traffic. The truck traffic today on Route 90 is less than it was 10, 20 years ago. And the other thing is the administration has this disturbing record of overestimating traffic increases. They told the federal government when they applied for funding that traffic is expected to rise by 75% by 2030 on Route 90. Here's my actual travel counts that I picked. 30 years ago it was 78,000. It bumped up a little in 2018 to 81,200. And last month, the new count came out, 78,000. I've heard other proponents say this is going to be great. It's a green project. It's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Half the emissions of the city come from transportation. Look at the cost-benefit analysis. It's only going to reduce the equivalent of 2 days of Winnipeg's annual emissions. Over 50 years, only 2-day reduction. Finally, I'm starting to wrap up here. Better options exist but have not been seriously explored. This would not be the first time the city has said enough is enough. Okay, you've done it before where project cost has just become unacceptable. I'll skip over this. There are smart congestion solutions, and part of the problem here, a major part of the problem, is the city has not engaged the right consultants. It hasn't reached out to people such as Todd Lippman of the Victoria Transport Policy Institute, who's North America's probably foremost expert on how to relieve congestion in a smarter, more affordable way. I got, I think, 2 more slides.
Go ahead.
3 slides, maybe. The other thing is we failed to look at what other jurisdictions are doing. Look at the Gardiner Expressway. $3.6 billion reconstruction of the Gardiner Expressway has way more traffic than Route 90. Could Toronto afford to add new lanes to mitigate construction delays? No. They did other things to cope with it, and we seem to ignore that experience. And then finally, tapping the expertise of North America's leader. There's something called the Texport Transport Institute. They're the leading organization in addressing congestion. They have over 50 different ways you can address congestion on a road such as Route 90, and the vast majority of these have not been considered by the city. And with that, I'll end my presentation and open to your questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation today. Any questions at all? Okay, Councillor Duncan, then Councillor Lukes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate your presentation today. Just on, it was one of your opening slides where you listed this project and how you've tracked it. It references 2009 and then the cost, how it's clearly gone up. Is it the same scope of work in your research? Did you find that it's the same scope of work?
No, this is a common problem. The world's foremost researcher on this is Professor Ben Flyberg, and he's documented hundreds and hundreds of projects like this.
Yeah.
And typically what happens is that projects like this, the scope is frequently at the initial stages is underestimated, and the costs are underestimated. And then you get political buy-in, and you get political lock-in. So this is a common problem, that the scope, indeed, on 129 million, my understanding is that the separation of the combined sewers, I do not believe it was included. But everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Let's widen Route 90, and the scope was underestimated from the get-go. So there has been a change in scope, correct.
Councillor Duncan?
Okay, so I brought this up with a delegate who came in opposition to it. I can't remember which EPC meeting it was, but the, breakdown as the public service provides it. Combined sewer at 118 million, road work at 163 million, bridge reconstruction at 282 million, and property acquisition somewhere around the 48 million mark. I don't think there's much argument on what we can and can't do with the bridge work, so
Agreed.
call it 300 million into it. Combined sewer, switch out
Yeah, agreed.
120 million.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's essentially the road widening and the property acquisition, which there's still going to be a cost to the property acquisition regardless because of the proposed formation of the bridge, correct?
Well, you know, as I've documented in the slide, the portion attributable to the widening, and again, I've used the city's numbers here, 36% of the total cost. You include capital financing or capital financing escalation. The city, using the city's numbers, it's $250 to $3 billion for the widening portion only. So I'm not disputing that Keniston needs to be rebuilt, the St. James Bridge needs to be rehabilitated, or it's a good thing to combine the sewers. That's not what I'm opposing. What I'm saying is if you have $250 to $3 billion extra on top of that, is this the most effective way to reduce congestion by adding lanes? And I'm arguing that the experts, not me, Victoria Transport Policy Institute, Texas Transport Institute says no.
Councillor Lukes?
Yeah, mine was, Mr. Clausen had come to Public Works, thank you very much. Was just a clarification for you, was in 2027 when the funding for the bridge occurs, it is for the current design of the
Okay.
bridge. If we don't receive
Yes.
any federal or provincial funding by that point,
Yes.
that design is based on the existing condition.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I wasn't sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clausen. To
Thank
you
you.
and your family, happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Oh,
Thank you.
same to you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, our last delegation today is Christopher Clasio, and Chris is joining us via Zoom. Hi, Chris, you can go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, EPC. I'm at work and on my break, so I just want to really talk about this budget. Hopefully, all of you can hear me.
Yes, we can, carry on, yep.
Today, I'm talking about this budget. I always believe that we always have to have a strength-based approach when we approach city issues, and I usually support city councilors' decisions of what you guys decide at the end of the day. But today, I'm signing in to speak in opposition of this upcoming budget. I truly believe that I was really impressed, Mayor Gillingham, when you increase the property tax to the 5.95 increase in the budget. I think that is a smarter move than gathering debt to pay off expansions of roads. I think my only criticism is I don't think the city should invest in expanding Keniston or Route 90 or Chief Peguis. Better investment could be sold on transit. I hear a lot of complaints about why is transit fees going up $1. I think citizens want accessible city services. I think this is a better investment for citizens, is putting all the money that the city has in transit infrastructure. I think that is where citizens really want to see services really improve. The other question about funding is a lot of community members have been talking about getting the 50-50 funding back with the province. I think this is an example of where city government and the provincial government can actually address environmental and climate change issues. These are concerns that all Winnipeggers believe in. I know it's tough right now in the economy where inflation's the quality of life of people are going down and prices are going up. But I truly believe that this city should invest in the people and in the services that people really, really believe in. So that's all I have to say tonight. And just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of your families. And it's been a great year, and keep up the great work as city councilors. I don't always agree with the votes or motions you put forth, but I do believe that the choices that you make are the choices you believe are the right way, right choices. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Always good to hear from you. Thanks for taking time out of your work day and on your break to join us. Appreciate your engagement. I think you accidentally said the transit fees are going up $1, fares are going up $1, going up 10 cents. But I think that, yeah, I know you follow things closely, so I'm assuming it was just a mistake. But the same to you. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you as well. And we really appreciate it, and we'll no doubt see you in 2026. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Chris was our last registered delegation.
Okay, with that then, I want to thank everyone again for their presentations today and their engagement. We also have some letters, I think, that were submitted as part of today. There's those who appeared in delegation, but there's also those who made submissions that are part of today's agenda and record as well. So with that, Councilor Santos, would you move adjournment? Okay, thank you all. We are adjourned. Yeah, I'm going to give...
Get Holly to turn off the